the vault. High atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Talking Catholic. I'm Jen Mauro, and with me today is Mike Walsh. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Jen. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm very happy, actually, because we are back in my beloved, very yellow vault, where we do, in the golden age of the podcast, we would record most of our podcasts, and almost all of them, unless we went on the road to shoot something or to record something. But people have probably not heard us talk about this place in a while. It literally is next to my office. I have a bank vault, and it used to be, I've actually found out more about this area recently.
Ooh.
The building we're in right now is formerly Camden Catholic High School before it essentially burned down in 1966, or part of it burned down in 1966. And within a year or two, it moved to Cherry Hill, one town over. Once it burned down for a period of time, it ended up being a U.S. bankruptcy court building. And when it was a U.S. bankruptcy court building, they put a vault here on the third floor. And when the diocese took it over many years later, it was basically used for storage. And the first day I walked in here, a little more than 6 years ago, I realized that my office came with an empty bank vault. I walked in and I said, this is going to be a recording studio. And that's what it became eventually.
How long did that take? A year?
Apparently it took about a year and a half. And I say that because Twitter just reminded me that this is roughly the 5-year anniversary of the original podcast. The original Talking Catholic podcast is 5 years ago this month.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it's actually, I'll be honest with you, I took a little bit of pride in that because I can't imagine that it was ever going to be 5 years. And, we've had so many great guests on, and I've now had so many great co-hosts, you included.
Thank you.
It's always been a nice little opportunity to do a little more. So, other than just writing up a story, but writing up a story in the paper or doing something. I know, there you go.
Just writing up a story in the paper.
Well, that's the thing is this podcast was actually intended to be an extension of the newspaper, our beloved Catholic Star Herald, where we would be able to do a deep dive on some of the stories that would appear in the paper. So we're actually going to kind of do that a little bit today. This is a guestless edition of the podcast, what I lovingly refer to as a hostful. Which I've stolen from many times over the years from the Nerdist podcast. When they would have their host-only episodes, they would call them hostfuls. So yeah, we figured we'd do this. But yes, it is the 5th year anniversary. And I was thinking about it this week that, we need to do some sort of special celebration, I think, for the 5th year. So it won't be this month, I doubt. All right, highly unlikely to be this month. But sometime in the next couple of months, we'll do a proper 5-year celebration. Maybe we'll make it a live celebration and invite people to come and actually watch a live taping of it. We did that for our 100th episode many years ago now. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of fun, actually. We enjoyed that. The best part of that episode might have been the fact that I brought Chick-fil-A for everybody.
That is a smooth move there.
That's lovely.
Waffle fries?
They were waffle fries, yes. Chicken nuggets and chicken sandwiches. And good stuff. And we even had a live band that night, too. Yeah.
What kind of band? What?
Jeff Shields and his family came and played for us. It was great. I played a lot of original music, and they're this night. We've had Jeff on the podcast a couple of times, and he's does a lot of great Christian music, but it's like very upbeat, but at the same time very soulful. Mm-hmm. So it was good, and his siblings are all very artistic, like he. So it was great.
That sounds like a fun, like a jamboree.
But now that I have so many previous guests and so many co-hosts, I figure we can really do a proper, maybe auditorium-sized live taping of the podcast. I think that might be fun.
Now, when you do a live podcast, do you take questions from the audience?
Absolutely, I do. As a matter of fact, I'm proud to say that, so our original co-host, Pete Sanchez, who started the podcast with me and is now the co-host of the Talking Saints, the award-winning Talking Saints podcast award-winning with Lori Power. His father actually was at that. His father recently passed, and but his father happened to be at that 100th episode. And his questions came with a little shiv. Like I gave me a little stab while he asked his question, because I was notorious for treating Pete like a little brother, might be the best way to put it. And he gave a little shot at me while we were there, and I always appreciated that.
I respect that.
And me too.
Yes.
Me too.
You kind of deserve it sometimes. So
I often deserve it, as a matter of fact. Even when I don't say anything, I often deserve it.
So did he threw you some hardballs?
He did. Yeah. Actually, he pointed out an error of mine. I wish I could. It was something related to a prayer. Might have been the Merton prayer. Anyway, something I had said was erroneous, and he was good enough to take a shot at me and then point out, make the correction.
He was probably trying to help you grow.
He probably was. I don't think he was successful, but I appreciated the effort. But yeah. So anyway, the 5th year anniversary is roughly this week. I'll also tell you that we have mentioned this before on the podcast, but the first episode ever recorded was actually with our now co-host Mary McCusker. She had recently joined the diocese, and we were testing the equipment. So we asked her to come in, and I was actually testing Pete and I as well, just to see if we could do an interview together and stuff like that. So she had has this really amazing backstory.
Right.
So we just asked her questions. She wept. It was great. It was the perfect start to a podcast series.
That is the perfect.
Yeah.
She's so great, and she's such a natural. So
she is a natural, and I can't wait to have her on sometime soon. She's been overloaded with work, so hopefully she'll be back with us soon.
Yeah. I hope so.
But anyway, it was a great one. However, it's never aired. So, and McCusker has begged us to never air it. And I said yes. And I said, I will keep that promise until you die. And then when you die, I'm putting it out.
Okay.
But up until that time, it's there. So I'm kind of on the fence about whether I want her to live or not, because it's actually a stupendously good episode. Like, it genuinely is. Like, I will be shocked when it's finally aired at how good it was.
Maybe she'll release it for the 5-year anniversary. Maybe she'll take mercy on you, and she'll say, you know what? Let's air it.
You've met Mary, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's not going to happen. But she is so critical of herself. She'll never allow that to happen. That's why I need her to die first. But I'm hopeful that it's a long, long time now. But I will leave it in my will. I promise.
That
if I go first,
yes,
it
airs.
I make sure that as part of my will, it airs somewhere. So listeners, God willing, it'll be 50 years from now, but you will hear that.
Was that recorded in the vault, by the way? The first one with Mary, was that recorded here in the vault?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think we did it in the outer office, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Although now that you say that, I'm not entirely certain.
And also, at what point did the vault get painted yellow? For its second episode then?
No, this used to be bland and stale, not as beautiful and bright as it is now. No, the Diocese of Camden was repainting the innards of several of their buildings. So the story actually goes back a little further. Anyway, so they were asking all of the staff, what color do they want their rooms, and I had found this yellow, which was essentially like a goldenrod yellow. It's really bright. I had painted in my first house, the office in that house was painted this bright. It actually might have even been brighter than this color.
I can't imagine that, because this is very yellow. I know we've talked about how bright this is, but I think we need to remind the readers. See, I'm stuck in the newspaper talk. The listeners, that it is screaming yellow. It is. Like, you walk in, you almost need sunglasses. And
I wanted to so we have a suite of offices up here. I wanted to do all 5 of them this color, and my colleague Maria, who shares the office space with me, said that if I did that, she would quit. So I think she was wise, probably. So we painted it a more neutral color, but I said, the vault is mine, and I want it painted this color. Now, this actually goes back previous to when I moved into my last house, or my first house. We came across my wife and I were looking at colors, and we came across a color called Hootenanny Green. I like it. And I just wanted it so I could let everyone know that it was Hootenanny Green. And it was a color that doesn't appear in nature. It was one of those ridiculously like electric greens, and it was great. But anyway, I couldn't find it for this iteration, so I just went with a painfully bright yellow. Anyway, but yellow is supposed to inspire creativity. And since we are in the creativity business, I thought yellow would be good. So that's the reason it looks like this.
I don't know how I feel about it because, like, for some reason I have a bizarre like of bank vaults. I think it's because I love all movies from like the 1920s, 30s, 40s. So you go into a bank vault, kind of feel like I'm back there. But when I came in here, I was like, oh, it's so bright, which I like the bright color, but then I didn't officially feel like I was in a bank vault. So I still haven't decided how I feel about it.
Well, everybody hates it but me, so it's okay if you're on the opposite side. Although I will say that Pete was the one that brought in the nice Christian relics and whatnot that are on the wall, and we have a nice picture of the saints, and we have a picture of Pope St. Paul II on the one side, and we have, I think that's St. John Neumann over there, and that's St. Francis de Sales over there. We have the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi over there. We got a lovely crucifix over here.
What if I brought in a poster of Humphrey Bogart? Would that kind of go against?
Was he a big Catholic?
No, I'm going back again to my gangster 30s and 40s movies.
Sure, you could probably do that, though. I think Jimmy Cagney would probably be a better choice.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Yeah.
This is completely off topic, even further off topic than usual.
Than the rest of this podcast so far?
Actually, this is a perfect homage to the original episodes. We would go, because we didn't have a time limit, so we would go on these crazy diversions and digressions, and I mean crazy digressions, like off into areas that have nothing to do with whatever the topic of the day was.
Okay.
But it just made me think about something. I was watching an old movie last night that I absolutely love, and it's called The Thin Man. It's
so great.
Oh, the entire series.
Great.
The last one. Don't watch the last one. The Song of the Thin Man is not worth it, but all of the other ones are fantastic. So I have them all saved on my DVR, but I was kind of like trying to drift off to sleep, and I wanted something that was going to help me kind of like relax. And I saw that HBO Max had The Thin Man for streaming, so I was like, you know what? I just sat in bed and watched it on my phone and drifted off. It was.
Did you actually fall asleep to The Thin Man?
No.
It's kind of.
I realized I had another hour to go, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn this off and finish this tomorrow night.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's a classic. I love that. So anyway. So we're in here. We're without a guest. It's our 5th anniversary, and we were kind of talking about, what we're going to chat about. Now, to our listeners, we often compliment our fellow podcasters to the north with some of the great work that they do on their podcast, and they very often will do a guestless podcast, and it sounds great. It really is, because Jerry and Tara are just so earnest and wonderful and stuff like that. And Jerry is so incredibly pastoral, and he really brings this great spiritual energy to their podcast.
Also, can I interrupt? Today is Jerry Wojtowski's birthday. So shout out to Jerry.
Oh, wow. This is perfect, because I was going to compliment. I'm going to continue with the compliment by letting our listeners know, if you also listen to that podcast and you appreciate when it's just the two of them by how spiritually rich it is, you don't need to worry about that today. because that is not something that I possess. That's something that Jen possesses in greater amount than I do, but she claims otherwise. However, when we get into Lenten talk, I'm going to prove you wrong, that you're better at this than me. But there were a couple of things that came up in the Catholic, as we were putting together this week's edition of the Catholic Star Herald, that we wanted to touch on with our listeners, just in case you weren't aware of them. 2 of them are legislative in nature. Now, we've done a few of these recently, and there were 2 other issues that are coming up that I think some folks might want to be aware of. It was a couple of weeks ago, we had Jim King from the New Jersey Catholic Conference on, talking about some initiatives that the NJCC were supporting in relation to the right to life. Well, the NJCC just came out with 2 more action alerts. These are related specifically to Catholic schools. And what I would recommend you do to learn more about them is to go to njcatholic.org. They have a voter voice section or alert section where you can go, and they'll have a pre-formatted email that you can send to the relevant legislator or the governor, in whatever the case may be. In this case, it's budget related, so it'll go to the governor. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and timing is important, because the governor will be announcing the fiscal budget on March 8th. So time is of the essence to go to that website and just kind of make your voice heard. And they did really make it easy by giving you a template to fill, or tips on how to write your own letter.
And one of them, I will admit, is rather close to my heart, and I'm a little biased on this one because my own son's situation as a Catholic school student, is impacted by this. But in the state of New Jersey, there's a lot of busing issues right now, and that's impacting Catholic schools particularly hard, where in my son's school used to have, it's a regional school, and it draws from 5 different communities. There used to be 5 buses that would come to it. But each of those sending districts, 4 of the 5 are no longer no longer funding busing to the parochial schools. In replacement of that, parents get whatever the equivalent would be of that money, because that money doesn't go to the school. That money actually goes to the student. So in years past, it was $880 for years and years and years. It was recently bumped to $1,000. But now, because of a lot of the ripple effects of COVID, it's actually more expensive to bus. And so what we're asking as Catholics, and the New Jersey Catholic Conference is asking, is for the governor to increase the budget from $1,000 per student to $1,150 per student. So an increase of $150 per Catholic student, so that we can have busing to all of our Catholic schools. And you might say to yourself, well, is that really that important? Yeah, it is. Because schools, the school students, I mean, this actually, not being able to be bused to a school deprives them of the ability to go to these Catholic schools and receive the education that they can get there that they can't get elsewhere.
And not only is it not having a bus available, it's just also the shortage of buses, that there are actually students who end up basically commuting. Yeah. I met a young high schooler that spends an hour and a half each way on a bus because she has to be outside by 5:30 to catch the bus. It's an hour and a half because of the shortage of buses. The buses are making very long routes, and then it's an hour and a half on the way home as well. Yeah. So when do you also have time to do your homework? Or it's really sad.
It is very sad, and it's something that can be alleviated. And remember, this is not government money that's going to the school. This is government money that goes to the parents, and then the parents pay for the busing, essentially. So it goes to the parents, and the parents turn it over to the main district that gets it. So the Catholic school never sees a dime of it.
Right.
So it's not like it's funding Catholic schools in any way. All it's doing is ensuring the ability for students who wish a Catholic school education to go to a Catholic school and not be, quite frankly, discriminated against.
Right. So that's only one of 2.
Right. The second one is the one that's usually a little more difficult for people to understand. I happen to be a graduate of it, so I certainly understand it. So there's something called compulsory education in the state of New Jersey. It's basically, from growing up, it was you went to the trailer. The trailer was, most Catholic schools had a trailer, and it had to be a trailer because you couldn't bring public school teachers into the school to teach. So you literally provided a trailer outside of the school so that the public school teachers could offer remedial training to Catholic school kids who were in need of it. And you may be shocked to learn, wasn't necessarily that bright. I needed a little bit of remedial help. Weirdly,
no. Was it math?
No, that was a weird thing. It was
no journalist, no math.
No, in my case, it was a little sketchy. It was all based on the Iowa tests at the time, and apparently, I had a bad day when the Iowa tests were done, and my scores came back low. So I was offered the ability to go for remedial schooling. Okay. So I got to go out. I was a trailer kid. It was awesome. I got to leave this class in the middle of the day and go out to the trailer. Anyway, compulsory education compensatory education still exists in the state of New Jersey. And that's another area that needs a little bit of help. During COVID times, it became quite stretched, in the sense that there were less teachers to provide it. therefore requiring larger classes and consolidating classes together, which left less one-on-one time. And in relation to students who are in need of remedial help, you actually need more one-on-one time. So basically, there isn't necessarily any numbers associated with this one, but it's a request to the governor to consider changes and increased funding for compensatory education. So that's another one. That's I forget that's actually Chapter 192 of the Education Code is where that falls into. So the NJCC's education wing is encouraging Catholic voters and Catholic citizens to send out these alerts, and you can go to njcatholic.org to fill them out if you want. But if you want to protect our schools and make sure our Catholic schools have the same advantages that public schools have, you need to make sure that you're reminding the governor and the legislator that our students are important, even if they go to a Catholic school. It's interesting you were talking about the trailers. So when you said you learned in a trailer, I didn't realize that that's why, because of the public. Yep. When growing up in Texas, I had math in the trailer, which actually should have been remedial because I was terrible at that. But it was because the high schools weren't big enough to hold the students. Oh, really? So we were in trailers. Yeah. I mean, there were 1,000 kids in my graduating class. Mm-hmm. So 1,000 kids in my graduating class, not the high school, my graduating class. Wow, that's impressive. So, yeah. Well, you did grow up in Texas. Right. There's a lot of people there. Yeah, there's some peculiarities about New Jersey that I've always found interesting. So we have 11 million people, roughly, in the state of New Jersey, and we have there's a lot of overhead and infrastructure in the state of New Jersey, which probably needs to get cleared out at some point because I think a lot of that eats up a lot of money. So one of these days, I'm probably going to run for office just to clean a few things up. I like that. That's gotten difficult. But I was, what was it? I just read that somewhere. Oh, shoot. Was it the Pope that said that? Somebody was remarking on the fact that it's actually important for people of good conscience to run for elected office. Yeah. So often it's the people you really don't want running for office, folks who are doing it for themselves or for their own notoriety, because there's some level of fame or celebrity that comes with it. When you really want people running for office, particularly local office and state office, who are people of a good nature and good foundation and well-educated and genuinely want the best for everybody. Right. And I think because of the way politics has become over the last decade or two, I think a lot less good people want to run. And I think that's a problem. I wish that would happen. I'm perfectly content with good Catholics running for office. Plus, you're local. You're a local boy, so you know what all of the issues are. I am a local boy. You know your community. I'm not a carpetbagger. Exactly. Unlike yourself, I am not a carpetbagger. That's why I will not be running for office. It's the only reason. That's it. That's the only one. Yeah, that's the only reason. I can hear you there. So anyway, but we wanted to sort of alert everyone to that and discuss just amongst yourselves if it's something you would want to support. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as we were putting together a lot of ideas for this episode, I came up with one or two and didn't write them down, and Jen came up with an entire notebook full and did write them down. I'm actually looking at her notebook versus mine. I'll probably put this up on Instagram later. You can see my empty notepad and her full notepad. Yes, you're so good. It is literally empty. There's not one thing written on it. Nope. And mine is completely full of pencil notes. And yet this podcast has existed for 5 years with almost no work you put into it. I put all my work in the editing later. There you go. So what else do we want to talk about? Well, we can talk about the annual appeal. Yeah. So if you are actually, and this is basically for every diocese, but for ours specifically, in the Diocese of Camden, on Super Bowl Sunday, as we do every year, we announce the House of Charity Bishop's Annual Appeal. The theme this year, for some reason, is refuses to stick in my head for some reason, even though I helped come up with it. One body. From many, one body. Mm-hmm. That's right. From many, one body. And this year's thematics related to it was we actually talked to a lot of donors. we'd never sort of done that before. Usually when we talk about the House of Charity and all the different ministries it supports, we talk to the people who are benefited from it. This year, we actually kind of turned it on its head a little bit, and we wanted to hear from the donors about why they donated to what they donate to and why they do it. So,
and what were some of the reasons?
Stress. We make them do it. No, just kidding. It was all different ones. So on that day, we released the annual video related to it, which is introduced every year by the bishop. And then we sat down and chatted with, 6 donors of varying ages, varying nationalities. It starts with talking to this wonderful Filipino woman who talks about how she had been touched by so many different elements of the ministries in the Catholic Church, and just that in that case she felt compelled to because it had been so kind to her, she felt compelled to sort of bring it forward to others. Then we talked to this wonderful young couple from my parish, actually, who, probably they have 2 kids. One just joined the family like 2 months ago. They probably have no business donating to anything because you know how expensive it is to have young children. And yet they felt that it was incredibly important. They felt it was a responsibility of theirs to be able to donate to the House of Charity. Even as a young couple, I think they're both in the PhD program. So these are not people with a ton of money lying around. And yet they felt it was important. And actually in that same vein, they also talked to a student at Rowan University who's a member of the Catholic Campus Ministry. She's 21 maybe, and said that she was so blown away by the Newman Center there and the Catholic Campus Ministry and what it provided for students. She too felt like she couldn't pass up the opportunity to donate. The stories are incredibly touching. I actually I always get credit for the video, and I should say right here, I am part of the planning process, but we actually bring in an outside company. It's the only video we bring in an outside company for, but they're so good we can't not bring them in. Mm-hmm. So I'm part of a team that puts it together. But our former guest, Katie Comerford, serves former and future guest, Katie Comerford, who heads the House of Charity, deserves a lot of credit for asking the questions and bringing together these great people. And it's just a wonderful video. So I encourage you to go to the Diocese of Camden's YouTube page. You'll see it there. It's available in both English and Spanish. Take a look at it. It's wonderful. They'll send you in the notes. You'll see where you can go to donate if you're so inspired. But it's I think you'll find it to be a heartwarming video that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. I always love I know this is going to sound strange, but I always love the annual appeal videos from all different dioceses. Like this time of year, I watch them because
they're touching.
It's the story. It is the stories. Yeah. And I learn about different people in different dioceses, especially different geographical areas and what they're, that's a whole nother bag of what they're in. So I don't know. I know it's kind of a strange February hobby, but I like to watch the videos from different dioceses.
You know what it is? Here's the thing.
Yeah, probably because I like stories.
Well, that part too, because they are great stories. And I will admit, we do, when we're putting things together, we go out of our way to find a couple of heart tuggers and stuff like that. And there's actually later on in the video, there's a great family from the Hispanic ministry that really is wonderful. And one of our priests are actually in it too. I think Father Josh Nevitt talks about his reasons for donating to the House of Charity. And there's a guy that has, the priests, they probably have everything that they do in the parishes, they probably have the least need to donate. And yet I believe it's 100% of all priests in the diocese donate to the House of Charity because they understand its value. It's amazing. It really is amazing. It's, I will say that what the House of Charity and Bishop's Annual Appeal does in the Diocese of Camden is so well known that it's hard not to appreciate and donate to it. And I forget what the goal is this year. I want to say COVID screwed everything up, so it got knocked down last year. So I don't know if it's back up to $7 million or not.
It's $7 million.
Is it $7 million? Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
But what I was going to say earlier was when you were talking about why we keep an eye on things, that's because January and February are boring in this time of year. It's my prep time to get ready for Lent, and it's you know, there's not a lot of activity.
Not a lot going on.
You know, everyone's sort of just gotten through Advent, and everybody needs a little bit of a break. And I was on the phone with the priest yesterday, and we were talking about getting together, and he was like, yeah, text me some dates after Easter.
Oh.
I was like, yeah, okay, after Easter it is. I know, because all the parishes are going to be so busy.
I was actually just looking around last night, and I saw that the Shamrock Shakes are back from McDonald's. And that is what I realized I was excited about. Like, I texted an image of a Shamrock Shake to like 4 people, and I said, hey, guess what's back? That's how much we need something going on around here.
You know? That's funny.
It's true story.
Because that used to be one of my metrics as well, the Shamrock
The Shamrock Shake?
And do you know how many Shamrock Shakes I've had in my life?
No.
1.
Yeah, that's about what I've had too.
And not that I have a problem with it, but I love the fact that it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's so
It's
funny.
just one of those things that makes you happy. It's in the world.
It is so fun. Well, for me, it's also it's a great indicator. Oh, it's almost St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, and that means it's getting warm outside.
Yeah, especially we're recording this on the tail end of our 65-degree stretch here in South Jersey. But I think by the time it's already down to 43 degrees, according to my watch. So we're heading back to winter. Actually, I will admit that this was supposed to be a different run of shows for us, because I was planning on doing all of these Zoom shows while I was on pilgrimage in Israel and Italy. And I was supposed to be waking up in Tel Aviv this very morning. And I woke up in Glassboro.
I know that has been on your mind this week, because every time I've talked to you, you're like, I should have been on a plane right now. I should have been packing my luggage right now.
Sadly, Israel a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, actually, Israel had changed its tourism rules, and my pilgrimage to all throughout Israel and Palestine, and then an extension into Rome and Assisi ended up being canceled because of the nobody could be certain what was going to be happening, so it was better just to wait a year.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. It'll be back.
You
can go then. And it'll be safer.
Well, see, I don't know if I can, because I sort of weaseled my way onto the last one where I was going to be able to do it, maybe not having a pay. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off again a year later, so we'll have to see.
Look, for somebody who wants to be a future politician, I am sure that you can get yourself on the next pilgrimage. Right. Yeah, I'm pretty confident.
I got news for you. That same crew of people, including our Vicar General and the Bishop, are also going to Ireland, which, if you're interested in, you can learn more about that somewhere on our Catholic Star Herald website, probably.
Also on the Diocese of Camden website.
There you go. You would think I would have that retained in memory, but I don't.
I was just reading about it again yesterday, to be honest with you. You know probably why? Because of the Shamrock Shake.
Well, there you go. You were inspired?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that is not a pilgrimage. That is a tour, and it's a tour with Bishop Sullivan and our Vicar General, Father Hughes, our Vicar General, who we've had on to discuss pilgrimages in the past and the importance of them.
Just recently, actually.
Exactly. That's right. We've had him on twice. That is not a pilgrimage. That is a tour. And they're very clear about that. So anyone who feels that they'll be saying the rosary every single day, you can say the rosary every single day, but it won't be, you shouldn't feel like you're being compelled to. You can go to every church you want, but that's not the kind of thing. It's actually going out and seeing the countryside of Ireland. But I tried to charm my way onto that one, and shockingly, I got shot down.
Aww.
So, yeah, apparently I can only charm my way into other things.
That's shocking, because you have such the gift of gab. I would have thought it would have been a perfect fit for you.
I believe our bosses have figured out how to see through it. It's amazing their wisdom in that regard. But yeah. So, there is a ton of stuff. That's one of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit, was everything that's sort of coming up this year. We have Lent right ahead of us. And then after that, once we get through Lent and Easter and a little bit further into June, we actually have something that we'll probably be talking about on this podcast a lot, which is the Eucharistic Revival. It was announced by the USCCB for the United States, and it's basically going to be a 2-year program where dioceses and parishes are going to be encouraged to make a point of helping parishioners and Catholics, and quite frankly, the community at large, understand the importance of the Eucharist in our faith. That because there was a Pew report that came out, Pew survey report that came out, 2-3 years ago, that commented about how Catholics themselves did not understand fully the importance of the Eucharist and its make fun of people when they use this phrase because it's now become hackneyed, but the source and summit of our faith. It is, that moment in the Mass where, we've gone through the liturgy of the Word and now we're into the liturgy of the Eucharist, arguably the most important part of the Mass. And it's the part that people don't seem to understand, that is actually the real presence of God that we are ingesting as part of our Mass, and it must be treated with incredible reverence, and it's something unique to our faith.
So the Diocese of Camden is in the planning stage of...
Oh my goodness, so many ideas.
And it starts in June, am I right?
Yeah, it actually starts. This was maybe an oversight on the USCCB's part. It starts Father's Day. It starts Father's Day, actually, of 2022. The planning we have will be using a vigil loophole, so we'll be starting it on the Saturday before.
Okay.
But I can't announce anything yet, but there will be something rather major that will be going on in our diocese, and it'll run, the diocesan element will run for 1 full year, and then there's a parish element that follows that will run for 1 full year, where we will make a point to emphasize and help people to understand and to educate the Eucharist and everything that it is, probably at some point ending, I'm not sure where in the timeline this falls, but with some form of a Eucharistic Congress. Now, that sounds cool, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I have no idea what it is. I've now asked 2 different people, and they didn't quite give me answers to help me understand. So that's good. I now have something new to learn.
It will be revealed to you at a later time.
Right.
I think it's actually fitting that this is coming right after the Synod of Bishops, or not that the Synod of Bishops is finished, but the talking to everybody in the parishes on the local level, because now we've already kind of established how to communicate a little better with our own friends and faithful in our pews. So this coming right after that, I feel like there's going to be a lot of same skill sets being utilized.
Although it's definitely not after the Synod. The Synod is going to be wrapped around. It's actually going to be quite simultaneous. It's just that the diocesan elements of the Synod will have mostly ended by summertime.
Your responsive would have gone to the U.S. conference by then.
But then we'll also be, once it gets to the USCCB, the Synod stuff that we're talking about now, once it gets to the USCCB, there's their element which we should all keep an eye on. And then when it gets to the Vatican, there'll be the big Synod of Bishops, the actual coming together of bishops, and that'll be kind of fascinating to watch.
2023, I think.
Yeah, in 2023. But but at the same time, the Eucharistic Revival will be moving along, and I think people will like it. I think it'll be interesting. I do tend to agree that the Eucharist is something that's, I was about to say fall out of favor. I wouldn't say fall out of favor, but I think it has fallen out of a sense of focus, maybe not by the church, but by the people in the pews. I think there's a lot of people who don't understand it.
I think it is misunderstood, but I also believe that if there's one thing that COVID has done, it's made a lot of people miss the Eucharist. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I spoke with that were happy to be back in pews to receive Eucharist, if that's what they had missed.
Now, see, that's you and me having 2 completely different perspectives on this. Well, maybe not completely different.
Yeah.
Because I view the Eucharist as something that should be achieved, and I am not theologian enough to really be speaking on this, and probably shouldn't say anything at all. I will just say that I think that there is a beauty in not receiving the Eucharist unless you are truly prepared to receive it. And I think a lot of Catholics don't understand that particular element, the fact that you're supposed to be in some form of a state of grace when you receive, and so many of us aren't. I mean, back in the Middle Ages, you received once a year.
Right. No, I understand that. But you're making the assumption that people who were home are not in the state of grace to receive either.
I believe I'm making a valid assessment. I'll be honest with you. Now, it's just the jaded me.
Yes.
But when I look into a room full of Catholics, a church full of Catholics, I'm usually hearing maybe 1% of you ought to be coming up. And I'm in the 99% who shouldn't be there.
I'm glad that you're judging while you're sitting in the pews.
I'm not judging, just embracing the truth of the situation.
Okay.
But I don't think I'm hard enough on myself, honestly, when it comes to receiving. Sometimes I feel like compelled to receive because like, I don't know, like if someone sees me not go up, they're going to question why I'm not going up.
Right.
I think that's a legitimate thing.
It is.
But I think it's on us to like cut people some slack if they're not going up. There's a reason why they're not going up, you know, and it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Could be that they were really hungry half an hour before Mass and didn't have a chance to and eat something, and now they can't receive.
I don't disagree with that at all. I know that you think I do.
No.
I was just saying that a lot of people during COVID missed the Eucharist. I believe
you. Well, no. I think that's good. I like hearing that they, you know, loss is important because it helps remind us of the things that are in fact important to us. And if that is something that the people took away from the shutdowns was being separated from the Eucharist, that's great. I love that.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I do. I genuinely love that. I just, you know me. I'm constantly, I throw myself in with the worst of us. And it's like, I know how many of us can overlook some things and assume the worst. And, you know, that's why I'm not in the pastoral wing of the diocese. Because I just assume the worst about everything.
Well, you know what I want to talk about next? Some of the best. How's that?
Oh, I love talking about some of the best. What were some of the best?
So one of the articles in the Catholic Star Herald this week is about our very own Knights of Columbus.
They are the best.
And I really like this story, so I'm going to share it.
You should.
All right. So a few of our Knights of Columbus from the Diocese of Camden. Raymond Sands, the New Jersey State Secretary of the Knights of Columbus, and David Geller, who's a district deputy of District 54.
And if you're wondering why she had to write down notes, now you know.
Now, there you go. They actually worked together with some of the Knights of Columbus from the Diocese of Trenton.
Boo.
And...
Oh, my heavens. Why? I shouldn't be booing other dioceses.
You should not be booing other dioceses.
That was inappropriate. It was. I shouldn't have done that. I love our friends of the North.
Keep that in mind on Sunday when you go up for that Eucharist.
Great. Now I got to go confession.
Right. So they got together. They had heard about the tornadoes that hit in December down south, especially hard hit Kentucky, and they were moved to try to help the victims down there. You know, they do a lot for our local faithful. And when the tornado hit here in South Jersey last fall, they helped around there.
Late summer.
Yeah. So, they saw what was going on down there, and they worked together, and over, I don't know, like basically a month and a half, they collected 10,000 pounds of items like canned goods and baby items and cat food and dog food. I don't know why I just picked cats. Actually, I do.
I know why.
Yeah, it's because I like cats.
Right.
And over $9,000 in cash. And they packed up their truck overnight, met the Trenton Diocese Knights on the road, and drove down to Kentucky, to Mayfield, actually, which is one of the hardest hit areas of Kentucky. Basically, the town was completely leveled by tornadoes, and they unloaded all that they had. And from at least the articles, I think it was Raymond Sands that said as soon as they got there, people were walking up just for fresh water. Yeah. Because there's no fresh water. The water tower was destroyed.
Kentucky is so when I was in college many, many years ago, I was able to go on a trip to Kentucky under the guise of Habitat for Humanity. And is it Habitat? Yeah, Habitat for Humanity. And we did a ton of repairs we were in the town of Union, which was actually featured in a famous, semi-famous independent movie called Matewan. And it is exactly what you would think of when you think of the salt of the earth of Kentucky. It is poor. It is rural. There's not a lot getting in. There ain't a lot getting out. It is, dirt roads, the whole bit. The fact that we were able to be supportive of this town was nothing short of amazing. And it's another example of all the great work that the Knights do on a quite frankly, a daily basis. But most of the time they do it without the cameras around or without a reporter there. But I love this story. And I also thought it was a great example, not just of the Knights, but the Knights in the state of New Jersey.
Oh, me too. I love the collaboration. And they collaborated with the Knights down in Kentucky and a sister as well. And they drove down there completely overnight. So it must have been just a little under 24 hours. Were there on the ground for 2 hours and turned around and came straight back. Yeah. So the dedication alone. And I love the whole thing about the story.
I've done that drive. That's a hard drive.
It's a drive. I've done it as well.
Yeah.
I've driven from New Jersey to Texas and back a couple of times since I grew up there and would go back and forth. It is a long drive.
It's a long drive. But to our friends listening, I also encourage you to go to Kentucky because it is they are the nicest human beings I've ever met in my entire life. Really freaked me out. I didn't know what to expect. Well, I grew up in Jersey my entire life,
Oh, because people say hi when you walk by and things.
It was very uncomfortable.
Yes, I can see how that would make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, I want to know what was going on. Yeah, it was very weird. But
I've never been to Kentucky. I've always wanted to go, though.
I recommend it. It is absolutely beautiful. The people are wonderful. The food was fantastic. The first time I ever had sausage gravy and biscuits was in Kentucky.
Yum.
Man, it was but it was a wonderful experience, and I'm glad those guys did it and had a similar experience to when I went down with Habitat. But that's another example of many of the good things. I hope they all got communion later.
And let me tell you, growing up in Texas, I was in some scary tornado situations myself, so I can't even imagine what those in Mayfield actually had to go through. Like a tornado, I say finally because I lived there a very long time and was fortunate enough not to go through an actual tornado. But the year after I left, one hit the neighborhood right next to ours. So, but many a time hiding in closets with a mattress over your head.
It's interesting. That's another example of the difference between New Jersey and Kentucky. So when the tornadoes came through New Jersey and Pennsylvania in late summer, the devastation was significant in a lot of those areas. Not all of them, but a lot of those areas were quite significant. Thank God, I don't believe we had any loss of life in the state of New Jersey, but there were some.
Not from the tornadoes, but from the flooding.
We did have. You're right. The flooding had. You're right. We had deaths related to the flooding. But what I was going to say was the response in New Jersey and Pennsylvania where those things happened were immediate because we had the ability for immediate response. In a place like Kentucky, you don't have the same kind of an infrastructure, so it is harder to get that sort of immediate response, which is why it was so good that, it took a little while. I mean, it took, some weeks after it occurred, but the fact that our guys were able to get down there and make these kind of donations was quite significant because, as you pointed out, as soon as they got down there, people were looking for water.
Right away.
So it's no small thing.
And according to the story, I think they have plans to keep those lines of communication going and maybe have a online meeting in the next couple of weeks to build those friendships and relationships up.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to give a little shout out to our photographer on that. The pictures he got from the drive down were truly lovely. You get the good action shots.
Yeah, you did.
I really like them.
Yeah, they were good.
Because sometimes, we shoot a lot of that kind of stuff, donations and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's a group photo in front of a box truck, which, that's nice. But I have to give Dave a lot of shot. Like, I remember looking at that page going, wow, that looks really good. So good job, Dave.
Yeah. I know what I also liked. David Geller, the night of Columbus, was wearing this gigantic cowboy hat, which I hear that's what he's known for. But I appreciated that he was wearing that down in Kentucky.
As a Texan, you appreciated it?
I did.
Okay, there you go.
Made me feel a little sad a little homesick.
Oh. I go to, what is that place called?
Cowtown?
No, not that. Well, I do go to that one. No, Tractor Supply.
Outback Steakhouse?
I also there sometimes. I was supposed to go to Texas Roadhouse last night.
That's what I should have said.
Did not happen. No, I would go to Tractor Supply every now and again, and they have a cowboy hat wall. And every time I put one on, I go, man, I really should buy one of these. I look good in this. And I never do. You know why? Because that would be the only place I would ever be able to wear it. Because I just don't, even though I have a rodeo essentially in my backyard.
Yeah, you can wear it to the office. I wore cowboy boots to the office once.
You can wear cowboy boots to the office. Yeah. That makes one of us.
Why you should wear the hat?
I don't know. Okay.
That makes one of us.
Tell you what, readers, that's jennifer.mauro at camdendiocese.org, and you guys let her know whether or not I should be wearing cowboy attire into work.
Or you know what? Send pictures of yourself wearing a cowboy hat. That's what I'd like to see, readers. You in cowboy hats. I'm putting them in the paper. What do you think about that?
Actually, I'm totally on board with that. I can't say that we're going to put them in the paper, but I will absolutely put them on the Talking Catholic social media.
Okay, let's do it.
If you all want to send in some stuff of you listening to the podcast in your headphones, wearing your cowboy hats, I will absolutely, or your cowboy boots, I will put it on Talking Catholic social media.
And I appreciate that you just used the word y'all when you said that.
Y'all.
Yeah,
of course.
That's good. was nice.
Man, I know my audience.
We'll go get some corn dogs after this, and it'll all be full circle.
Is that a Texas thing?
It's a Texas Fair thing, which is...
Corn dogs?
A day off from school, by the way. Good. Texas Fair.
Texas Fair is... You get to take the day off?
Yeah. Oh. Schools are, like, closed and stuff.
You know that corn dogs exist everywhere, right?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever eaten one since I left Texas, though.
Well, I'm going to encourage you to go to Williamsburg. What's the place down in Williamsburg? Oh, now I can't remember. Oh, well, you can get them at like Great Adventure, and you can get them at places like that.
Yeah, I know that.
You point them out. It's not.
That doesn't count.
You could also get them at the Jersey Shore.
Maybe it's just nostalgia.
Okay, there you go.
How's that? Maybe, I mean,
no, I'm just
corn, like roasted corn, walking around with that.
Have you ever been to the Jersey Shore?
Yeah.
Because you live right next to it. I just want you to know that.
Or a Ren Fair. Then we walk around with those giant turkey legs.
Make fun all you want of Ren Fairs. I love the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair.
I have an outfit for the Ren Fair. I have been in a costume. So.
All right. You know what? Every now and again, you tell me more than I need to know, and that you have just crossed that line.
Oh.
I really wish I did not know that you have a Renaissance Fair outfit.
Well, it's... too bad. You only had 6 more minutes, and we almost got through it.
Didn't have nightmares tonight. Yeah. Nope, not gonna happen. All right, what else is on your notebook?
Let's see what else is on my notebook. We could talk about.
You tell we're reaching the end of 15 minutes.
Yes. Let's see. I was part of a panel this week to speak at a Catholic school in the Diocese of Trenton to talk about peace, and that was pretty exciting.
That is pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm. It's a modern-day high school in Middletown, and they have a Global Leaders program where the students can learn about the United Nations, and they actually partner with a NGO called Pathways to Peace, and these young kids get to go to the UN and present. So It's really cool. So there was a great panel. I was the weakest link, and the rest of the panel was fantastic, talking about how young people can work for peace in either their professional lives or personal lives. And there was a whole great panel.
What was the initiative? What's the organization called again?
It's the Global Leaders Program in Modern Day Prep, but it's Pathways to Peace.
Pathways to Peace, that's right.
And they do a lot of good work.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So it was pretty good.
Oh, well, I'm glad you had a good time.
I did.
And you got to be out of work for a little while. I didn't notice, though. I don't know why I'm bringing that up.
Oh, why would you bring that up? I love being here.
That's so weird.
Especially when I get to wear my cowboy boots. So, you said that. And let's see what else is going on.
Well, wait. Go ahead. Well, I specifically wanted to ask you about your synod work, because you're also doing synod work in the Diocese of Trenton. I
am. And it's going very well, thank you. So, Diocese of Trenton is a couple...
months behind us, right?
I was going to say a couple months into their process.
Not behind us is the way I'm going to work at it.
Look at that either way. So
I got news for you. All the dioceses are behind us. We are essentially done and over.
Yeah, actually, I have read a lot of articles about that. Yeah. So, yeah, Camden.
Yeah, there you go.
So, shout out. What were we talking about?
You're part of the delayed synod in the Diocese of Trenton.
I am part of a very spiritual part of the synod in the Diocese of Trenton. So my parish, St. Francis of Assisi on Long Beach Island, is making announcements next weekend, at all masses about how you can participate in the synod if you want to be part of the talking sessions while we listen and take notes and report it to the diocese about, your experience with the church. It's going really well. And,
for the other dioceses that are so woefully behind us, if you're going to be at these speak up sessions, speak up, speak your mind. Mm-hmm. So I was able to read through the Diocese of Camden's document that has just been reviewed by all the deans now and deaneries. And it's now to the point where it's going to be reviewed by the bishop and whatnot. So I've looked at the document, and I have to give a lot of credit to the speakers as well as the editors who have put this thing together, and tell them they did a great job of including the negative, including the things that they have concerns about, including some very direct comments about concerns they had with their pastors, concerns they had with the Pope, concerns they had with the bishop. Certainly a lot of praise all over the place as well. But, it's important that you let people know what your concerns are, because that's one of the reasons why the synod exists is to put all that stuff up to the Vatican. So if you think that the Catholic Church has gone downhill since Vatican II, stick it in there, because the only way anybody's going to read that is if somebody writes it. At the same time, if you think Vatican II has been the thing that's helped spread Catholicism further and farther than pre-Vatican II, put that in there. It's these kinds of opinions and perspectives are important.
And I don't know if we've talked about this before. I'm sure we have, but one of the aspects that I like of the Synod is the fact that you don't have to wait for it to go all the way to the Vatican and come back. Mm-hmm. A lot of these responses are being heard by the pastors and associate pastors and priests, so we can address these issues right now. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to wait. And I think another beautiful thing is if you're on these listening committees or you're the one being listened to, at the end of the day, you're getting to know your fellow parishioners right next to you in a different way than mm-hmm. you did before. Like, some of the people that I've been speaking with or had to listen to, and not had to, but wanted to listen to, and I've already known them for 5, 6, 7 years, but we're talking about some deep stuff that I didn't know about them, and vice versa. And now when I see them in church, it's like having a deeper friendship with somebody.
That's nice. Sure. No, it is nice. I do like all that stuff. I'm glad that's happened, and that is ultimately a benefit that we're making all these connections again and creating vehicles of communications out to the parishes and out to the parishioners directly. So ultimately, everything that's involved in the Synod is going to be good, but it only works if people take part.
That's right.
So go take part. Anyway, Jen, thank you very much for sitting across from me for 54 and a half minutes. I'm so appreciative of that.
No
and
problem.
To our listeners, thanks for sitting through this. And we'll have guests on next week, I assure you. But have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. See ya.
Bye.